Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sophomores, now we are going to continue after, starting our first discussion about the Islamic Golden Age and the great contribution that was done at that time by the Muslims in all fields, different fields, and we gave example of all those great Islamic Arabian contributors who made a lot of changes concerning in translation, medicine, architecture, mathematics, and now we're gonna go more in with different slides to highlight this important part in history, and then we can go to the other part of the text that highlights the contribution, the Golden Age, just in short, what was going on. So we're gonna, of course, we're gonna discuss some viewpoints, contributions in mathematics and other stuff in medicine like translation, so we can highlight more. Now, the Golden Age was during the Abbasid historical period beginning. Of course, as I said, the Golden Age in previous lecture, the Golden Age even started with the Umayyads, with the architecture, with the kind of arabesques and decorations. And I said, I'm going to show you now examples of such kind of arabesques in one of the slides, which is like a kind of carving and decorations. You can see them if you looked a little bit. If you went to Medina al-Munawwara wal-Haram al-Nabawi, you're gonna find out there in the Umayyad part, when you get inside the Rawda Sharifa, there are some cataracts in the ceiling which are related to the Umayyad era. You can see such, and also for those who went to Damascus and looked at the drawings, cataracts in the Umayyad mosque, they can find out what I'm saying, that they were so special and they were considered as one of the new artistic upheavals and innovations in the way of infrastructure and the way of decoration at that time, of course. Now, the Golden Age was during the Abbasid historical period beginning in the mid-century, and of course with the Mongols. We know that one of the last Abbasid emperors was Al-Mu'tasim. Of course, when they promised with a peaceful settlement with the Mongols, who were so much outrageous and bloodish, and they follow no contract or convention, they massacred all the Abbasids until the last one, who fled away to Egypt later on. We're going to talk about this later on, but this was their downfall. But we talk about the rise of the Abbasid Empire, and it's precisely Harun al-Rashid, this great guy, great caliph, who allowed large scope translations, I said in the previous lecture, and this allowed the translation of the classical Greek and Roman information. And such kind of information, such kind of translations enlightened the Arabs to start their innovation, like Al-Khwarizmi, Al-Razi, Ibn Sina, Rushd in philosophy, and a lot of other innovators. During the reign of Harun al-Rashid, Baghdad was the world center, knowledge, wealth, international significance, of course, because at that time the Abbasid Empire spread all over from India until until Morocco at that time, and they controlled very big, vast area, considered as the strongest power at that time. And of course, Harun al-Rashid was so much interested in sciences, in poetry, in translation. That's why he encouraged a large scope of enlightenment, a larger scope of translation, a large scope of motivation for all those scholars, with the credits and gifts for all those who come with the new innovation, all that stuff. Two factors that laid the foundation: that's pure collection, translation knowledge, and sponsoring scholars sponsor, of course, as I said before, taking care of scholars and promising them with gifts with any kind of innovation and adopting their innovation, discussion of viewpoints. Of course, if we're going to look to this map somehow, we're talking about the kind of routes that used during the Abbasid time connected the Abbasids to the Far East. Fine. In areas like Samarkand, areas close to the Indus Valley, in even if you can see the route from Aleppo, crossing Damascus, crossing nowadays Jordan, Arabian Peninsula, the same route for the Hajj. Fine, crossing Medina Munawwara until Mecca. Fine, all of this. This is also not only for what kind of migrations, trading, and such kind of trade allowed a big multicultural diffusion of concepts, of ideas, and also of innovations. When the Arabs were well known for their innovations, and they were also well known for their strong connections. Of course, we're going to just highlight now advancements of the Golden Age in mathematics, medicine, sciences, philosophy, and architecture, of course. Now, this is the arabesque. This is the Umayyad Mosque. And this is what I've been talking about. Such kind of arabesque is considered as part of the innovation. Fine. And it's built by the Umayyads. It's still today present. It's considered as one of the most important arabesques that's still from the Umayyad area. Of course, now the catalyst for success. There are many reasons for success of the Islamic civilization during the period. Most notably is principles of ideals of Islam. Of course, tolerance. Ideals of Islam. It didn't force anyone for conversion, unlike other religions. It simply provided a peaceful settlement, and there was what's called the pact of Sahabi Umar, Khalifa Umar radiallahu anh. This pact started in the church of Qiyamah, Kanisa al-Qiyamah in Jerusalem. Fine. It's that it gave peace, that whenever Muslims are going to enter, I'm not going to say conquer, I'm going to say enter, liberate any area, fine, they are not going to shed any drop of blood, and they are going to give a chance. They are not going to massacre or kill any little child or women or elders. They are preserved and they were going to be respected. However, the elders, those who fought in the war or those who surrendered, are supposed to pay tribute. Now, of course, this kind of regulation, which is the regulation or the Pact of Umar, as known as the Pact of Umar, it's exemplified a very important example of tolerance at that time in the history, in the Islamic history, where whenever Muslims were able to liberate any area, the people of the conquered areas, the peoples of the liberated areas, they were feeling so much relief, and this triggered them to know more about the ideals of Islam and started a large scope of conversion to Islam, especially knowing that the area in Syria and Lebanon and the part of Turkey, we have like 70% population who were following the Byzantine Christian religion, and they converted simply when they looked about, when the eye witnessed the tolerance of Islam and the great kind of treatment that they received. That's why they believed in such kind of religion. And this is documented. This is documented in a lot of books, and it's proven also. Tolerance and respect, contribution, ethnic religions. Islam unified the tribes, of course, because Islam is a religion of unity. And most of the preachings in Islam focus about unity. إنما المسلمون إخوة سواسية كأسنان المشط. They are unified. They are homogenized in one principle, one concept. And that's what brought spirit for liberation, brought big unification and avoided any chance of division or possible civil divisions that paved the way for an empire that lasted for centuries and centuries to come after that. Islam was attractive to the conquered. It was easy to become Muslim, preaches equality, and it was not forced on others, as I said. Islam major strides the field. Of course, here we have Muhammad bin Musa al-Khwarizmi, the one who innovated algebra, and we have I talked about the theories, of course, that he innovated. The word algebra was derived. He was the one who innovated. They used to solve practical problems. Contributions traced al-Khwarizmi in 9th century, introduced fundamentals in algebra. Of course, we have Ibn Sina. We have also other kind of contributions. As I said in the previous lecture, if you remember, I gave a name of a lot of contributors like Jabir ibn Hayyan and other contributors in chemistry and physics. Scientific method was first developed in Muslim more significant progress in methodology, fine. The most important development is scientific experimentation, which is basically in chemistry, chemical experimentation. Most of the things that you're studying this year, and you're going to study and studied previously in last year in freshman year, and you're going to come in and you're going to study in the coming year, inshallah, grade 10. They are based on and they are stemming from old Arabian chemical innovations in chemistry and physics, of course. Now, music scientists translated Greek classics, as I said before, many previous, and they depended on such kind of translations to develop and innovate a lot of things, like in medicine. Muslims laid foundation for many sub areas, both preventive medicine, which, when I say the word preventive, I mean herbs and other kind of natural preventive medicines that can protect and provide healthy bodies. Remedial aspects of medicine was researched. Razi in 9th century, which is a Persian physician, made first major Muslim contribution medicine, and he developed the first vaccination against smallpox and measles. Another physician, Ibn Sina, of course, I just want to highlight the rise of innovation. This this protected hundreds of thousands of Europeans during the Dark Age, when this kind of vaccination cured a lot of people. Because, by the way, although the Europeans, they were able to formulate and know about such kind of vaccination, this kind of disease, smallpox, wiped out almost 70% of the American population at that time, when the Spaniard discovered with Christopher Columbus, Francisco Pizarro, Fernando Magellan, and all of these Spanish and Portuguese conquistadors, when they discovered Central America and North America, they spread, unfortunately, smallpox, which wiped out almost like 80% of the old Aztec and Mayan civilization. Of course, although they had this kind now, of course, Razi, with his invention, he was able to provide the right vaccination for smallpox and measles, and I'm referring to this precisely that nowadays, that because of coronavirus, the world is competing to see how they can provide the demanded vaccination to stop this pandemic disease. Another physician, Ibn Sina, of course, the well-known Ibn Sina, composed over 276 works, and the most prominent is Qanun. Ibn Sina is well known even until today in Spain. It's translated into more than one. This law is translated into, which is compiled into one book. It's translated into 6 different languages. Of course, it stems from the Arabian language. It's considered one of the basics for medicine. Muslim also made advanced treatments and cataracts, main cause of blindness during old age. We're gonna give example about this extract from the canon of medicine, that the first one who made extraction of the eye, figure out the lenses, the cataracts. They studied this in biology, but that it all started with the Arabian innovation. Abu Bakr Razi, who was also not only like a physician, he was also he got a lot of remedies, preventive remedies, a lot of methods to treat. These are some of the Arabian tools that's used, and nowadays in surgical tools, considered surgical tools and all that stuff, and medical tools. Now here we have the sublimation process, which is related to, which is of course in chemistry and physics. It's started by Jabir ibn Hayyan, who made the first nitric acid, developed the process of distillation, sublimation, and filtration, coagulation, and crystallization. All of this process you studied in chemistry, and you have to know that it was innovated by Jabir ibn Hayyan. Of course, here we have Ibn al-Haytham, of course, the father of optics. It was considered at that time that the first, magnified glasses. It was considered by many Europeans as a branch of magic, because they couldn't understand. At that time, Europe was in dark age, and the Arabs were considered in the peak of their enlightenment. Since they were not able to unravel and discover this, everything related to the magnification and lenses was considered as part of magic. The Arabs were the first who created the telescopes, fine, and when they magnified the lenses to look for far areas. Of course, Ibn al-Haytham, he used an early form of scientific method to explain optics. Of course, Muslim philosophers, and I talked about that time about Ibn Rushd and Ghazali. Ghazali, he made a book called Tahafut al-Falasifa, in order just to talk about philosophers. He was talking about philosophy, that philosophy should be understood, but also he attacked philosophers. Of course, Ibn Rushd is going to reply to his former book by another book called Tahafut al-Tahafut, which is like to attack what he was saying before about that we should defend philosophy, that philosophy is going to be subsided with the religion, is going to help all the scholars to understand more about their religion based on قوله تعالى وما أوتيتم من العلم إلا قليلا. So it reflects the kind of beneficial kind of discussion, and these two publications about previous book by Tahafut al-Falasifa and Tahafut by Ibn Rushd, and how they tried to approach and enlighten at that time all the readers about the most important thing that led. Of course, I sadly, after that, ignorance spread, because most of Ibn Rushd's books were burned, because they were considered as part of blasphemy. They were misunderstood, especially at that time in Andalus, and this led to the decline of the Arabian golden age at that time. One of the reasons, of course, the Abbasid encouraged translation from pre-Islamic languages, Middle Greek, Syriac, and Persian, and Greek, and all this, especially the Greek classical knowledge and the Roman classical knowledge. This was necessary for two reasons: to understand the text, make further research development. Of course, Islamic architecture is distinct in terms and unique architectural elements, ornamentations, decorations, and like the arabesques, and the kind of infrastructure and carvings. Of course, the Arabs were so much affected by the Byzantine architecture. The Byzantine at that time, when they first made the Hagia Sophia, was considered as one of the wonders at that time, with one of the highest dome in the world. And that's why they were affected by such kind of architecture. With a lot of Arab architectures, they built magnificent mosques and made a lot of decorations. Calligraphy is essential aspects written Arabic, developed manuscripts. There was handwriting, calligraphy, architectural designs. Muslims also contributed the field, and you see all of this calligraphy in the ceilings. In different areas, Muslims also contributed to engineering, inventing cranks, pistons, pumps, gears. These tools was later incorporated in machinery developed European base, which is basically, this machine used to elevate water, fine, and it's you can find such kind of you can see in a city called Hama in Syria, of course. These cylinders, they used to gush water and to pump. Of course, Al-Jazri, he's one of those who innovated this cylinder in the mill house near Cordoba, of course. Different decorations concerning the mosques, and also Benefits trade during golden age. Trade, of course, trade first of all allowed, as I said, multicultural diffusion of concepts and ideas, and it subsided different concepts together and allowed the Muslims to be open to different cultures. Of course, they exercised their tolerance because they tolerated a lot of other religions. As I said before, a lot of Christian, Jewish architecture and authors, they were tolerated, they were accepted, they were encouraged to do further. Of course, they adopted Islam after that, spread of Islam lands, and also trade a lot in spread of Islam, not only trade. Of course, and I'm gonna end this here, and I'm gonna just go directly to the text. Okay. Islamic growth and prosperity. Islam requires Muslims that they practice their religion in an appropriate manner to be able to do so. Muslims follow teachings that talked about Islamic tolerance, revealed in the Quran, which is about equality, and the concepts mentioned in the Quran al-Karim is about equality and homogenizing all the Muslims in under one religion. As I said before, it was a religion not only Islam didn't approach only issues about hereafter or spiritual issues. Also, it tried to approach issues about civilization, organization of civilization, setting rules and main basics in order to organize communities and all that stuff. They were also encouraged to free slaves. Freeing slaves. Of course, Islam abolished slavery, and they fought against it. Saying that many military, of course, one of the first who liberated slaves were Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, when he liberated the Bilal al-Habashi. Many military slaves who were first brought from Turks or who were captured during war were freed later on. Women, on the other hand, were spiritually and socially equal to men. Although, of course, we're talking about equality for all those who talk about that the history, the women were privileged, they were sharing in the community, and this is so much important because 70 or 80% of the culture in the world, they were patriarchal communities. They minimized the role of females, and they cast them away from taking any role. Unlike in the Islamic culture, even some women, they shared in battles, and they were great advisors to their husbands. And this is so much important to highlight. The history is considered as one of the great social contributions and innovations in the Islamic community and Islamic society as well. Although women had certain duties and responsibilities towards families like men, they had right to earn fruits of their own work that they can take. They can take their inheritance. They can inherit property. Unlike other civilizations, even in Europe at that time, Dark Age, the women were burned on stake. They were killed because of witchcraft and all that stuff. And this shows a big difference during the Islamic Enlightenment. Before Quran, men could marry as many women as they wanted. Quran came and limited the number of men married 4. Of course, it's based on Sharia. Of course, hence to remember, dowry is a gift that's usually given by the man who asks a woman hand in marriage his expected bride. Of course, we know this. It can be either money or property. Until today, it's still followed. Of course, here we have the Arabs were great fans of philosophy. We've talked about philosophy, Ibn Rushd and Ghazali. Science and history, they translated the works of many famous philosophers. We said Aristotle. Of course, we have Plato and Socrates, of course, and other Greek philosophers to Arabian. Soon, the Arabian works translated into Latin. Of course, this is considered a decline. I do believe so. Unfortunately, of course, at the beginning of the 11th century, we started burning the Arab books, the great contributions did in physics, chemistry, biology, all of the work of consecutive 6 centuries were burned because there was a very mistaken notion started to spread among Muslims. Of course, it wasn't created by Muslims, created by the enemies of Islam, known as the Donma, most of them, those who they started spreading ideas about that all the knowledge that's related to chemistry, physics is considered as a blasphemy. That's why it's supposed to be burned. So unfortunately, Muslims considered as one of the most important historical mistakes, and I believe it catastrophes. Muslims started burning their books, where most of these books were shipped to Europe These books led to the upheaval in Europe after that. With the prosperity of knowledge and education, paper factories start flourishing in Baghdad following booksellers and libraries. Astronomy, of course, we said, as another field which Muslims studied, and they were also to develop a lot of lenses like telescopes in order to look from big towers that were built, especially during the reign of Ma'mun, and also in Andalus. Many princes, they built special towers for astronomy. They set up an observatory in Baghdad and studied positions of the stars among their achievements in field and all this. And astrolabe, of course, astrolabe is like a compass to know how to know your direction for sailors. Medicine and history also had their share development during golden age of Islam. Said Razi, of course, we have Ibn Sina, was the best doctor at the time, wrote medical books that spread knowledge in the field. Ibn Sina also, as I said, is a philosopher. A lot of intellectuals. The great Ibn Khaldun, who paved the way for most of the political books. I just want to highlight this, but you all study about plagiarism. As I said, sadly, the large scope of plagiarism happened, especially after the Reconquista, which is the reclaiming of the Spanish territories from the Muslims, from Cordoba, Ashbilia, and Valladolid, all these Islamic cities. Of course, Abdurrahman al-Dakhil, he founded Umayyad civilization in Al-Andalus that lasted for almost like 6-7 centuries. All of these books, when the Crusaders started their bloodish Reconquista, they were killing everybody. They were purifying. Many libraries were left unraveled. That's why most of the books were taken, and without any kind of citation, they were adopted by different scholars who suddenly they started claiming that they are the ones who made this knowledge. And for example, you can see the same book was copy pasted. One of the most important books in politics is known. It's called The Prince by Machiavelli. It's a complete plagiarism. Basically, most of the information in this book by Machiavelli was taken from Ibn Khaldun's book when he was talking about Al-Madinah al-Fadila and the cities and regulations. He was a great scholar, a great socialist writer who paved the way for most of the political studies about sociology and all that stuff. Prominent Muslim historian wrote one of the most famous books called Muqaddimah, Introduction to History. This is one example of his great works. Of course, this is in short about this important lesson. I hope that everything is clear to you. Thank you very much. So for more, grade 10. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.